going to go ahead and get starting for this evening. My name is Evelyn Green. I am one of the co-chairs of the Economic Development Committee of Hinesville Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And we're so excited that you were able to take time out of your Thursday evening to come and be here with us while we try and present some information that I think is going to be very beneficial to you, to your family, and to our community as a whole. So right now we're going to start with a prayer, an opening prayer by Miss Makia Frazier. After that, we'll have greetings by our chapter president, Miss Deborah Covington. And then we will have an introduction of our speakers in our presentation.
Please bow your heads or assume your preferred posture of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering all of us here today, God. We thank you for bringing us here one more time, safely and sound. We appreciate all that you've done for us in our lives, God. We appreciate what you've done, what you're doing, and what you will do going forward. We pray that you bestow your guidance and blessings upon all of us here in this event so that we can enjoy it and appreciate its significance in our lives. And Lord, we pray that you bless everyone that's present, that we may be able to share what we have learned in our communities. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Good evening, everybody. Hello to our service area, which is Bryan, Liberty, Long, and Wayne County. Thank you for our virtual friends and family that are here with us tonight. We are so excited about what we're going to learn this evening. Now, as I was talking to several of my friends and family, one of the things that we have in common is that we look at our physical health, our mental health, but sometimes we kind of lack in our financial health. Not till we're probably around 40, 50 years old that we really value it. And so tonight, hopefully we can get some, we will get some valuable information that is going to help us, help our community, and then also if we could focus on passing this information to our community members that are in their 20s so they can go ahead and get started with this. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. We have so much that we're going to put in our toolkit tonight. And so as the president of Hinesville Alumni Chapter, I like to say welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. And next we'll have our introduction of our facilitators. Miss Marcia Simmons is next.
Miss Marcia, if you can take your video off of mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
All right, good. Well, good afternoon. I am Marcia Simmons, and I'm here to introduce our visiting guests tonight that are going to speak on the behalf of their organization. And I am so excited of what we are going to learn this afternoon. I am proud to present Mrs. Cheryl Peterson and Mrs. Tyra Ward. Cheryl Peterson is the Senior Managing Director at McIntosh Sustainable Environment and Economic Development, which is a nonprofit organization known as the McIntosh Seed Program, located in Darien, Georgia. She was born and raised here in Liberty County. Cheryl is a graduate of Georgia Southern University, where she received her Bachelor of Science degree in education and a Master of Science in Administration and Supervision, a formal principal in Liberty County and McIntosh County school systems. Cheryl serves as the outreach provider for the USDA NRC for the states of Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. She is a grassroots trainer, technical assistant provider, facilitator, and consultant in the areas of organizational capacity building, economic development, youth leadership, and educational strategic planning and board development. Cheryl has been featured in videos and presented at numerous national forums and workshops for the Aspen Institute, USDA, Marguerite Casey Foundation, the Mary Reynolds Badcock Foundation, and internationally at the Cody Institute in Nova Scotia, Canada. Cheryl's work with building value chains and identifying market demands has been featured in several publications. And joining her tonight, she will also have Mrs. Tyra Ward. Mrs. Ward was born and raised in Jessup, Georgia. She has worked with the Macintosh Seed Program since 2017. Tyra is an outreach coordinator managing the Sustainable Forest and Land Retention Program, SFLR, which is a forest program specifically designed to assist African American landowners with forest management and conservation practices. She is the liaison between landowners, the USDA, NRCS, and FSA. She also works as the program coordinator for the Pathways-2-Philanthropy program, which you will find out more about tonight. Tyra is a graduate of Wayne County High School and holds an associate degree of science from the College of Coastal Georgia in Brunswick, Georgia. So it gives me great joy to introduce Mrs. Tyra Ward and Mrs. Cheryl Peterson. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction.
Thank
you. I also want to say a special thank you to Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated for giving us the opportunity to come tonight to share some information with you about our Pathways to Philanthropy program. I'd like to say a special thank you to Evelyn. Evelyn reached out to me a couple months ago. She shared with me that she was working with economic development and thought that this would be a good opportunity to share with you all a program that our office has been implementing for the last 4 years as part of a bigger project in terms of bringing economic development to rural areas. And so we're very pleased to share this program with you tonight. Also attending, his picture's not up, but he is in attendance, is our executive director, Mr. John Littles. So he is here supporting us, but he has turned it over for the ladies to take care of this tonight. And then also we have our financial advisor and planner in attendance, and that's Miss Brandy Whitfield. So Brandy is also present. At some point, I may get an opportunity to just let her say hello. Tyra's here, and we are going to get started by just telling you a little bit about Macintosh Seed, the program itself, and then going into a little bit more detail about how this program came to be and how we actually implement it. So Tyra, if you are ready, I'm ready. So tonight we are presenting the Pathways to Philanthropy program. As Ms. Simmons said earlier, I'm Cheryl Peterson and I'm the Senior Managing Director at Macintosh Seed, and Tyra Ward is our Pathway to Philanthropy program coordinator. The Pathways to Philanthropy program has a couple of sponsors, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But we have funding support from Southern Partners Fund. It's a foundation located in Atlanta, Georgia. And then the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and they're based out of Seattle, Washington. Tonight's presentation, we're going to give you an introduction to Macintosh Seed. We're going to introduce the P2P program, give you an overview of the process, the implementation plan, and then we're going to share some results with you. So initially, I'd like to just share with you just a little bit of information about McIntosh Seed. It is a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1998, located in coastal Georgia, right down south from us in Darien. But we currently work in Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. And our work is based on strengthening low wealth families and improving economic conditions in underserved rural communities in order to reduce poverty and to capitalize on opportunities to increase the capacity of families through land retention, generational wealth, and looking at the whole issue of preserving the environment.
Well, good evening, everyone. As Ms. Marcia stated, I am Tyra Ward, and I am the outreach manager for McIntosh Seed, but I am the program coordinator for the Pathways-2-Philanthropy program. So welcome, everyone, and nice to meet you all. But I would like to take this time to introduce McIntosh Seed's board of directors. So starting with the chairman, Mr. Robert Hudley. Then we have the vice chairman, Bishop Fred McIver. Ms. Doris Nelson, the secretary, our treasurer, Ms. Jimmy Eunice, our assistant secretary, Ms. Joyce Lotson, and board member, Ms. Roberta Lane. We also have our staff. As Ms. Peterson mentioned, we have our executive director on, Mr. John Littles, senior managing director, Ms. Cheryl Peterson, myself, the program coordinator, Tyra Ward, and our program associate, John Littles Jr.
So we're getting started telling you about Pathways to Philanthropy. So this program started out as a project for Southern Partners Fund, and we were contracted by Southern Partners Fund to work with rural communities and to look at the whole issue of using crowdfunding and other social media type platforms for raising money for the organizations. But as we started visiting these organizations and looking at their infrastructure and looking at their communities, we realized that it was really difficult to implement a crowdfunding platform when a lot of these smaller organizations only had maybe a 1 or 2 person staff. In a lot of areas they didn't have any broadband. But one thing that we did discover is that they did have some sort of giving taking place in their community, whether it was through a donor giving fund, or if it was through some sort of social circle, or if it was with their churches with tithing, or if they were in civic clubs. And so we wanted to dispel the myth that communities of color do not give, because that was one of the big things that they wanted us to find out was, why don't communities of color give? Why are they always looking for outside sources to help support the infrastructure and the needs within those communities? And so we set out to dispel that myth. The other myth that we set out to dispel is that rural communities of color have been giving for generations in informal giving circles. And so this wasn't something that just started. It wasn't something that was new to communities of color. And so we went back and reported to the W.K. Kellogg Foundation that those are myths. And so we continue to explore those. And so the goals of the Pathways to Philanthropy program was to build family wealth and assets and improve livelihoods, educate and encourage philanthropic giving, and increase community giving, cultivate donor circles and improve community infrastructure, and then promote the local ownership and local control of philanthropic giving. So we're looking at this whole issue of what is philanthropy. And usually when you hear about philanthropists, you think about the big names like Bill and Melinda Gates and how much money they give, or Oprah building a school, or Tyler or LeBron. You hear about those names, but philanthropy is really about the practice of performing charitable and benevolent actions. It's showing a love of mankind in general. It is the desire to promote the welfare of others and expressed especially by generous donations of money to good causes. It's altruistic, and it is concern for human welfare and advancement, and usually is manifested by donations of money, property, or work, but it is also the giving of time, talent, and treasure. So we looked at giving circles. Giving circles provide a mechanism for individual donors to meet and to learn about interests, to learn about issues of shared interests. Members often bring a donation to an event or require an annual donation in order for participation. Members of the circle decide together how to distribute the pool funds to nonprofits or projects within their community. The formation of giving circles plant the seed for philanthropy within the communities most affected by social injustices. And I put that in bold because during this time, we really are focusing on the social injustices that are taking place. And that's why giving circles are going to become more and more important. It allows people to see how they can begin to change their communities from within rather than relying solely on external donors. So again, it is planting the seed for philanthropy for within the communities that are most affected by social injustices. And you're taking ownership of what's happening and taking responsibility for your communities rather than waiting for some external donor to come in and provide funding to address the issues within your community. So one example that I have for you, and Ms. Covington, this one will be close to home, but it is a giving circle that was formed in Birmingham, and it's called the Birmingham Change Fund. This is a giving circle of African-American professionals who pool their time, talent, and treasures together in order to make grants in the Birmingham community. And their focus is in 3 areas: education, economics, and healthcare. The Birmingham Change Fund is a component fund of the Community Foundation of Birmingham. So what they've done is that they have now pooled all of their resources together, and they have now come underneath the umbrella of the Greater Community Foundation of Birmingham so that they can disperse their grants. So the Pathway to Philanthropy program. This program is a subsidiary of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. And in 2019, Kellogg asked that we come and present the Pathway to Philanthropy program to all of its grantees across the United States and international grantees. So they brought us all to Seattle, Washington, and asked that we share the Pathways to Philanthropy program because of the merits of this program. So they wanted it shared with all of their grantees. And it was a unique opportunity. We made connections with folks from Brazil, from Honduras, from South Africa. So it was a great opportunity to interact with folks internationally who are focused on how can they make changes in their community.
So the Pathways to Philanthropy has 3 components, one being the individual or the family. Then next we have the community, and then the foundation. The goal of the individual component or the family is to increase personal savings of individuals or families and to provide educational classes and workshops on wealth building, land loss prevention, and philanthropic giving. Now we have the community. And here we are asking for the community to share a portion of the savings, whether it's 90-10, 80-20, 75-25, or 60-40. And this is designed to promote community philanthropy, develop a pathway to create sustainable changes in communities, and to encourage participants to become philanthropists by donating percentage of savings to a community fund. And lastly, we have the community fund, which is the future goal. And the goal of this community fund is after a 5-year savings period, we want to create or partner with a community foundation to support philanthropic giving. We want to improve communities' infrastructure, create lasting mechanisms for sustainable community-supported philanthropy, and examples are health and human services, early childhood literacy, adult counseling, education initiatives, scholarship funds, youth services, arts and culture, and workforce development. and many more causes that are having a positive impact on the lives of area citizens.
So this is the process that we use to implement the Pathways to Philanthropy program, and it's a really simple premise. When we got started, what we noticed was that if you're going to ask for donations, it was a lot easier to ask community residents when they felt more secure and comfortable in their own personal finances. And so it's hard to ask someone to give who's just trying to make ends meet or who's trying just basically keeping the lights on, keeping food on the table, and keeping clothes on their children's backs. And so we've set out to build a personal wealth of individuals. And so we felt like if we could do that, then it would be a whole lot easier to ask folks to contribute to a cause. So we introduced the savings program based upon a really simple premise. We used the calendar. And what happened was we were going into a new year and we discovered that this was a really simple way in order for folks to save money. And that's really what the Pathways to Philanthropy program is about on the basic level. It is about saving money and building personal wealth. So we set out with a small attainable goal of $1,378 based on the calendar system. So you save a small amount of money that corresponds to the week of the year. The first week of the year, you save $1. Second week of the year, $2. You continue the pattern until week 52. And at the end of the year, at the base level, you would have saved $1,378. Again, a simple premise, but by December 31, if you follow the pattern using the calendar as your savings guide, you will end up with a total of $1,378 at the end of the year. The second part of the process was that we felt like we needed team leaders. We needed team leaders to monitor the participants throughout the year to keep them on track and just to check in with them periodically just to say, how are you doing? How's it going? So the first 20 weeks of the year are fairly easy. Everyone's all excited because all you have to do is put up $1 or $5 or 10. But when we started getting to double digits and especially beyond 20, we started noticing that program participation started waning just a little bit because this is every week where you're having to save money. So team leaders helped us to help participants to stay on track and just to be able to have someone there for support. The team leaders also do quarterly check-ins with Tyra as the program coordinator. So she reaches out just to touch bases with them, just to say, how's your team doing? How are your team members doing? We also have financial meetings, and these meetings are held with a financial planner or a financial guest speaker. As I mentioned earlier, Brandy Whitfield is our financial planner, and she helps to conduct the meetings that we hold. But we've also had folks to come in from our local banks to do presentations, whether that's credit building, if it is first-time home buyers. We've asked bankers to come in and to share strategies with program participants who have various goals. We have a range of ages. There are some folks who are in the program who may be in their 40s, 50s, 60s, but they may be first-time home buyers. And so we've asked bankers to come in and to share what is it exactly that you're looking for? What does a person need to do in order to be prepared to apply for a mortgage? What are some initial steps that they should take? So we've invited those bankers and those financial planners to come in as guest speakers. And then every year we do an end of the year reveal. We ask them to come in and to share with us how much money they've saved through the year. And then we set our goal. What are we going to use our contributions for? Is that for helping with scholarships? If that is to support Habitat for Humanity, we do the goal setting for our donations. But this is the basic premise that we use to make sure that folks are staying on track, make sure that they're saving, because at the end of the year, we want to see all of the participants be successful and see them all make it to the end of the year. So the next few slides that you're going to see are just some pictures of our meetings. Brandy is pictured in red in the picture on the left. That's our financial planner. The young lady, Anshanae Gadsden, is a program participant. And Anshanae has a story that she has shared with us. Her young son, Noah, chipped his tooth, and she had to take him to the dentist. And so she said that she was so happy that she had a savings, because without that, she didn't know what she would do. And she said her son probably would have ended up losing his tooth. But because she had a savings, and because she was diligent with saving, she was able to pay the money for the dental implant for her son, so that he wouldn't have to go the rest of the year missing a tooth. So Anshanae shares that story about how valuable it is that she had that savings. And as a single parent, she's making sure that she's established a college fund for her son. And that's something that we've encouraged all of the young mothers to do. Brandy actually has a session that she's done with some of the young mothers in helping them to set up college accounts for their children. And again, this is about generational wealth. And so we want those young mothers to start thinking into the future and start thinking about the next generation and start thinking financially about how they can make sure that their children have a great start going into whatever path they decide to take, but make sure that those finances are there to support their children. Brandy comes into our meeting. She does one-on-one counseling. I've actually had Brandy to come in. The bottom two pictures were actually from 2018. We had death in the family, but we had lots of family that were in town. So we felt like this was a great time to bring Brandy in and just to have a conversation about financial planning. And so Brandy came in and presented this to like about 20, 25 family members. And so we just had a frank conversation. As Ms. Covington said at the beginning, sometimes we don't have those conversations about finances. And because there are just various age ranges, we thought it would be a great idea to get everyone in a room and really just have an honest conversation about where you are financially. What are you doing to secure your financial future? What are you doing to secure a financial future for your children? Are you thinking about buying a home? Are you positioning? Have you checked your credit? And so we just had a frank and honest conversation right there in my aunt's house with Brandy, the financial planner. The picture on the left shows us at one of our reveal parties. I think this was the first year because we have the giant check. So we did a reveal party. And what we did that particular year, Mr. Little said, you know, this is our initial year. Let's give everyone a personal check that reflects the amount of money they saved. And so everyone got an opportunity to leave with their personal check, which reflected how much money they had saved during the year. And of course, on the picture on the right, that is Miss Evelyn Green and Mr. Tayron Barrett. And we are in the middle of a meeting with Brandy, and we're looking at investments and investments projections, looking at stocks. How do you pick a stock? How do you tell which one is performing well, which one is not? And so we get into some really specific details around financial planning. So we just recently had one of our meetings. This particular meeting focused on investments, because at the end of the year, and I'll show you the total from 2020, but we had a significant total of collective savings. And so one of the participants said, you know, there is a whole lot of synergy in this room. And if we could pool our resources together, we could do great things. And so we scheduled this meeting just to talk about investment opportunities. What is out there for us to invest in? What goals will we need to set? We wanted to know who was interested. And then look at common investment opportunities. Is that rental property, commercial property? Is that stock? But we wanted to start having those conversations. During this particular meeting, we also focus on Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And Ms. Covington and I had a brief conversation about the book by Mr. Robert Kiyosaki, and we shared some of the principles from the book and some of the money lessons from the book. So again, we're trying to educate and increase everyone's financial knowledge. And we're also looking at how do you spend your money and how to look at your money differently. Mr. Littles always says that's either money to them or money to me. And so he's a great negotiator when it comes to purchases, but just looking at being wise or wiser about how we utilize our money. So the next couple of slides are just going to show you some of the results from year to year. So year one, we had 32 participants. Collectively, they saved $84,144, and $7,000 of that went to philanthropic giving. Year two, we had 55 participants. They collectively saved $128,000, and we gave away $13,000 to philanthropic causes, issues, supporting folks. Year three, we had 60 participants. Collectively, they saved $197,386, and $12,000 of that went to philanthropic giving. And this is our total from 2020. Even though we had COVID-19, sheltered in place orders, a lot of folks were unemployed. But what we noticed is that folks were very diligent with the monies that they had. Even when they got their unemployment, they didn't just spend their unemployment checks. They put that money away. They put their stimulus money away. And a lot of our participants ended up doubling, and in some cases tripling the amount of money that they saved in 2020. So we had 41 participants. Some folks fell off, but we saved $307,990, and $15,000 of that went to philanthropic giving. So as I was speaking to earlier, the first year we gave away the checks, and you can see Tyra was a first year participant. That first year, Tyra saved a base amount of $1,378. And for those of you who recognize Bishop McIver, that is Pastor and Mrs. At that took time, Pastor and Mrs. McIver, he's now Bishop McIver, they saved $9,000 that very first year of our program. 2019, our total was $194,986.32. And then there's another element to our savings program, and it's a little friendly team competition. As I said earlier, we do have team leaders. And so we just made it a competition, but it wasn't a competition to see who could outdo the other. It was really a competition to make sure that your team stayed engaged, make sure that you stayed in touch with your team members so that they can make it across the finish line. So in 2019, Team Barrett Reed, which is my team, and the secretary, Ms. Doris Reed, she and I are co-team captains. And so our team, we had 28 participants, and our team collectively saved $117,059.32. Team Littles, which is the executive director's team, he had 23 participants. Collectively, they saved $50,852. And Team McIver had 9 participants, and they saved $27,075. Projects that we've supported with our philanthropic giving have included food distributions, college tuitions, scholarships. We've given holiday gifts for nursing home patients. We've supported Black history cultural exhibits, single parent households. We covered some expenses for some of our senior members of the community who had to evacuate due to the hurricanes, and they just did not have the proceeds to cover their travel costs and to cover their lodging and meals. And so the Pathways-to-Philanthropy program was a good opportunity for us to support those seniors with their evacuation expenses. We also provided COVID-19 relief for families in McIntosh, Liberty, and our sister county that we support is Holmes County, Mississippi. Holmes County, Mississippi is one of the poorest counties in the nation, and they've been on that list for years. And we've got connections in Mississippi just through our work there. And so we always find opportunities to support that community, to support those folks there, because they are great people. They just live in a very rural, high poverty area. And so whenever there's an opportunity for us to support them, we do. And then we also support the work of Habitat for Humanity. These are some quotes from our participants. This was the first time that I've saved money in a disciplined manner, and this is the most money that my family has ever had. I was able to support patients in a local nursing home. I was able to support 2 students from a single parent household who were headed to college and bought them their supplies. I designated my savings for my grandson who will be heading to college next year. And then the last one is I was able to provide a mother of 5 with a used car in order to help with transportation to her new job. Winston Churchill said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And that's the basis of the Pathways to Philanthropy program. It's not only about what we're able to make and how much we're able to save, but it's also about what we're able to give. The Pathway to Philanthropy program is a new way of building individual and family wealth while creating philanthropists in communities of color for generational prosperity and improved livelihoods. So at this time, I'd like to address some of the questions. If there are some questions in the chat box at this time.
So there is a question from Ms. Clarissa Thompson. What type of stocks do you recommend starting off with for beginner investors or those with no experience in investing?
So, Clarissa, because that's not necessarily my field of expertise, what I do recommend is to have a conversation with a financial planner or an investor. And I would say really is learn as much as you can before you step into the stock market. As someone told me, you have to have money to play with. And you also have to have a backbone of steel because you've got to be able to ride out the highs and the lows. And so you want to make sure that when you are investing that you are picking a stock that has a long history of performing well. And so look at their 10-year performance record to see how well they've been doing, and then look at the cost of what it's going to take to manage that particular stock, like what fees are involved. But I would say before you start picking a stock, please do as much research as possible and equip yourself with as much education as possible so that you're picking the right stock. I will say at this point, a lot of folks are looking at startups as an opportunity to get in on the ground floor for making money. But then there are also a lot of the stocks on the S&P 500 that have consistently done well. So you may not necessarily have all of the money to jump right into the S&P, and you can start small. But I would say before you invest 1 penny of your money, please make sure you read as much information as possible, do your homework, do your research, talk to folks who have invested money in the stock market and find out from them about the highs, the lows, the challenges. And then if you're ready, then take that next step of investing.
Okay, another question from Ms. Evelyn. What were some of the tactics that were used to make it easier to save?
So we talk to our participants, and at the meetings, we do a lot of peer sharing. And so folks started making sure that they shopped at end of season sales where things were marked down 70 to 80%. They did not buy full price. Folks stopped eating out 5 nights a week or eating out every Sunday after church. COVID also helped with that since a lot of folks weren't able to go to church and churches were closed. But like for others, if they were taking their family out on the weekends, they cut back. So instead of going out 4 weekends of the month, they only took the family out 2. And so they just started making small tweaks to their funds. One thing that Tyra and I did, and we had to challenge each other on this with COVID, was, you can't go to the nail salon. So we said, we haven't been going to the nail salon. So when things open back up, is that something that we can let go of for a little while? So instead of going every 2 weeks getting your nails done, you can put that money aside. Mr. Littles put his up with the haircuts. And so it's like pay for 2 haircuts, save the money, and go a little bit longer in between time. So just look at little areas where you can cut back. Instead of eating out, maybe it's a good time to start learning how to cook or be more familiar with cooking and prepare meals at home. And you'll be surprised at how much money you're able to save. So it's just little tweaks that you can make.
And Ms. Peterson, I would like to add, just going back to the calendar that we use, start with the larger amounts earlier. That tends to make it easier too. So it wouldn't be more likely to fall off during, the calendar year. So I just wanted to add that.
That's a great point, Tyra. One of our participants, and Natasha is on the call tonight. So Natasha does her calendar in reverse. So instead of starting out with $1 at the beginning of the year, she said, look, that first quarter of the year, I've got more money. So she reverses her calendar and works it backwards. So she goes from 52, and then by the time we get to December, of course, she only has like $1 to put up. So she flipped her calendar and she works it in reverse.
Okay, we have several questions, so I'm just gonna go in order.
Okay.
Okay, but this is from Ms. Bailey. Did individuals use personal savings accounts or something separate that they were unable to touch throughout the year?
So a combination of the two. We asked that they use a savings account that they would not touch. And so that's what we highly encourage, is not touch. However, I think it was during years 2 and 3, we had extenuating circumstances and had to evacuate a couple times. Folks went into their savings. And what we said is, if you go into your savings, then have a plan for replenishing those funds that you've taken out. But we highly encourage people to not touch the money until the end of the year.
Oh, that man got a beautiful about Mr. Brown.
We got someone who's not on mute.
Miss Betty, could you mute, please?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Next question.
He had filed.
Charlie Husherman, I think I'm on.
Okay. Next question. So this is from Miss Renee. Do the participants join with a participation agreement, and do participants help pick the philanthropic activities to donate funds?
So no, there's no participation agreement. We don't require that you sign up, and this is totally on the honor system. And yes, they do help pick the philanthropic area. So we do that at the end of the year. We decide where we want to do our donation. And so participants are involved in that decision. Now, there are some that go above and beyond. So there are some individual donations that they make, and that's fine. But we do try to at least pick our 2 or 3 that everyone agrees that this is the cause or these are the issues that we want to support.
Okay. Can someone start the program now in the middle of the year? If so, what are the best strategies to begin?
Absolutely. You can start today. You can start right now. And all you do is, I would say, start by contacting Tyra and let her send you an electronic copy of the calendar and let us know that you're planning on participating and saving your money, and she can walk you through the calendar. you can either pick up with this week and go forward and then devise a plan for the other weeks that you've missed, or you can just start from this point and go on to the end of the year. One thing that I do want to lift up is that even though the $1,378 is a base amount, the vast majority of the participants go way above that. Last year, we had one person who saved like $2,500. I'm sorry, 2019, she saved $2,000, but 2020, she saved $10,000. And so it's just a broad range. Once you get started and once you get disciplined and consistent with making sure that you put your money aside, you're going to see that you're going to go above and beyond the calendar amount for that particular week. But you can start at any point.
Do the participants receive budgeting, financial awareness training?
Yes, yes, they do. That's Brandy's role in this. And so the financial classes are a part of what we do. We were doing these classes in person at our office, but due to COVID, we've now moved to a virtual platform. So we do them via Zoom.
What are the best ways to introduce this program to family and friends?
I would say you could either get Tara or I to do a Zoom session with you just to talk about the merits, or, you know, we could just have a conversation and you tell us just a little bit, like if you think that they're going to be a little bit challenging, if this is going to be new for them, we can help support you through that process. So I would say, let us talk about the program. Let us share the history, the successes of program participants, maybe even show just a really quick PowerPoint to your family. And then maybe we could go from there in terms of doing a presentation so that we can introduce this whole concept of saving and saving for not only family wealth, but we want to make sure that we're focusing on that next generation that's coming up, that we want to have enough proceeds put aside to secure this next generation. And I'll just share this one tip. I heard that the wealthy, like the upper 1%, like they plan for 7 generations out, but that we typically plan for now and at best 1 generation. And so we need to change that. That's why there's such a big disparity in the wealth gap, is because they're planning for 7 generations and their children have that head start and we're only focused on 1. So we need to make sure that we're setting up our future generations so that they don't have to feel like they got to play catch up behind the others.
Okay. What type of savings account do you recommend for individuals looking to make a return on the money they are putting away?
I'm going to leave that answer to Brandy because she is the best person to answer. That's what she does. I don't want to advise you on which account. I will say look for something that is going to give you a high yield. And a lot of the traditional savings accounts really aren't paying a whole lot on your money. So if you can have a conversation or a consultation with a financial planner, I would advise you to do that.
Is there also a focus on various debt repayment styles, such as snowball method, while simultaneously being able to achieve one's savings goal?
You know, we've had this conversation about how do you pay down your debt and save at the same time. And so there is the snowball method of paying off the smallest, and then once you pay that off, you pay off the next, and then the next. And then there's the avalanche method, where you start with the biggest debt and then work your way down. There's also the method where you're focusing on the interest rate, like which one of your credit cards or which debt has the highest interest rate. I've read a lot, and really the method just depends on your personal goals. Do you want to reduce your debt quicker by starting small and working your way up so that you can see that you've got some sort of accomplishment and you can use that as motivation to keep going? Or do you just want to jump in and tackle it by getting rid of the biggest debt first and then working your way back to the smallest? And so it really just depends on where you are and what motivates you, what you want to do first.
Would you recommend a CD to encourage commitment and help gain interest on savings?
We recommend, well, let me correct that. So we recommend that you diversify. So your portfolio, your financial portfolio can have a variety of tools in it, in your toolkit. So you can have CDs, you can have your mutual funds, you can have annuities over here, you can have some stocks. We just recommend that you diversify so that you've got several sources of revenue and so that you've spread your money out. Some will do better than others, some are going to pay more interest than others. Some do require longer commitment. And so if you want to put your money in a CD, you can, but I would suggest that you check the interest rate before you do that and make that long-term commitment. There are some short-term CDs where you can do a year, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, but with all of it, check the interest rate and see how much money are you going to be earning on your money.
What are some things that we can do or something you've done with our savings to aid in setting our families up for generations to come?
So we've looked at just savings, being able to have a cash flow that you can tap into to help support the next generation and make sure that that money is there and diversify those funding sources. Brandy shares that you can start saving with a college fund and you can designate that for whomever. It may be your child, grandchild, niece, nephew. You can designate it for whatever child so that you can set them up so that when they do get ready to go to college, that money is there. You can also invest in a business. You can also invest in land acquisition. Robert Kiyosaki talks about assets, like making sure that you are acquiring assets, not just money, but getting assets. So that's buying homes, buying property, buying land. Just make sure that you're making some tangible investment in something that you will be able to pass down to the next generation.
Do you have any recommendations on how to motivate and showing the importance of an IRA to our youth who are starting their first job?
That's a conversation that we've had, and not just focusing on the IRA, just even talking about saving money with the youth. We've got a couple program participants that are young. We've got one that is 16. She was working a first job. So in 2019, I think she saved like about $1,600, but in 2020, she saved like almost $3,500. I would start early and have this conversation about reality and fantasy, because sometimes the fantasy is what you see on social media, the focus on designer items. And so you're dropping $700 and $800 on a pair of shoes, $3,000 on a purse. So instead of doing that, put that money aside and let that money work for you. So there's a saying that says, if you save for tomorrow, tomorrow's going to come. And when tomorrow comes, you're going to see that you've got your money in the bank, or you have assets that you can tap into, or you don't have to wait for tomorrow. You can spend every dime that you get. But you've got to know that there's going to be a difference in lifestyle between you and the person who's the saver, or the person who has put their money up and really has been intentional about making sure that they have money for the future. So I would have conversations with young folks about just jotting down a list of everything that they are buying. If it is designer sneakers, jewelry, if it is rims on the car, just fast forward 5 years and just say, is there a return on that investment that you just made on rims and sneakers in comparison to if you had put that money up, or if you had invested it and it's paying interest or compound interest? And so just start having those conversations. And then I would give them a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, we have to start having this conversation with our young. And Tyra's young, and Tyra knows we poured a whole lot into her and talking about money and savings and credit cards, because we know that our young folks who go to college, that they're targeted by these predatory credit card institutions. And so we've had conversations about getting credit cards, but then how to manage credit so that you don't destroy your credit profile at such a young age, and then you're trying to crawl out from underneath that debt.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off of that. Like, it is extremely important to start like with the younger generation. Just let them know how important credit is, how important saving is, because some kids do not know because they are not taught. And I was raised really well, but I really did not have the understanding of credit or of saving. But once I got it together, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not going back, because it's so important and it's so beneficial to you in the long run. So, okay, we have a few more questions.
Okay, so let's try to go through those quickly because it's already 7:04 and I just want to be respectful of everyone's time.
Well, Ms. Peterson, Mr. Littles asked if we could share about the impact of discipline by following this program.
Yeah, so by following this program, it makes you become more disciplined because it's not you saving sporadically. We find that that doesn't really work well. The consistency seems to work well. And having your team members send you a text message that says, okay, it's Friday, have you put your money up? This is week 12 or this is week 17 helps a whole lot. And when you really start building in that pattern. It says it takes 21 days to change behavior and to form patterns. And so the discipline that it takes to put money up every week makes a big difference in terms of how successful you'll be in the program. And so that's a big part of this, is the discipline and the consistency with saving.
Okay, does the program also address the importance of life or death insurance, generational wealth?
We talk about that, not necessarily so much of an emphasis in the Pathway to Philanthropy program, but we talk about it a whole lot in terms of our estate planning work, which is another programmatic area that we do. And so that comes underneath our estate planning, is making sure that you have enough life insurance to cover not only final burial expenses, but also enough so that the family can take care of whatever debt you have, but also have enough to live off of and to be able to accomplish those goals that you would have had set for them, or that would have been accomplished if you were still living. And so we do get into a little bit more detail with that, with our wills and estate planning. And I will just throw this nugget in. If you don't have a will, please get a will. It'll help alleviate a lot of problems for your family in the long run. But that comes underneath our wills and estate planning.
Okay. So that was the last question.
Okay.
Right, that was the last one.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So if there, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you all very much for the opportunity to present information on Pathways to Philanthropy. There's our contact information. You can reach me or you can reach Tyra. You can also reach out to Evelyn. She's been the liaison for us, and Evelyn has been a part of the program for a number of years and has done extremely well. So I do want to lift up Evelyn and talk about the exceptional job that you've done with your savings as well. So thank you all for the opportunity to present our Pathways to Philanthropy program.
All right, and thank you, Ms. Peterson. Thank you, Ms. Tyra Ward. We are just extremely grateful that you guys took the time out to put this presentation together. We know that you do a lot of presentations at McIntosh Seed, but we're so thankful that you were able to pour into Hinesville Alumni Chapter in our service areas.
She was wrapping up. I think she's having internet issues. We'll go to Ms. Marcia Simmons. Do you have any closing words as a co-chair as well?
All right, I would just like to say that we are just so thankful and blessed for the information that we have received this afternoon. I hope that everyone has the information so they can reach out to Cheryl and get more engaged in what's going on, so we can have some generational wealth for our children and our grandchildren in the future. And I would just like to say thank you and have a great, great afternoon.
Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. We like to wrap this up. If everyone can give, I know we can give virtual hand claps, or you can raise your hands up and give Miss Peterson and Miss Ward a hand clap of their awesome, awesome information they have given us tonight. If we could also give a hand clap for our co-chairs, that is Miss Marsha Simmons and Miss Evelyn Green. Awesome job together. Thank you so much. And give yourself a hand clap because you're here. You're about to start your generational wealth for your family. And it starts with the mindset. Ms. Peterson had mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're not advertising any books, but the whole thing is about changing your mindset of money. And so once you get that together, you'll see money is it is really not that big of a deal, because I won't get into that, but it's not a big deal. It just changes the mindset. So Robert Kiyosaki also talks about us moving from one quadrant, 1 and 2, to 3 and 4, and that is employment, self-employed, and move over to business and investment. And that's when you really start making your money work for you. And then you can have fun with money, because money is not evil. It's how you interpret it that it will be evil, but you'll have, it is so much fun. So we thank you for the information. We thank you that we are now going to be good steward of our monies, and we are going to build 7 generations down with that mindset in mind. So at this time, we'd like to say thank you for everyone for coming out and hearing this information. And Hinesville Alumni Chapter says, thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy your evening.